Have you ever been so consumed by frustration that you lashed out, only to realize your careless anger didn't just break an object, but shattered a lifetime of memory? That moment, that instant of shocking realization, is what changed everything for a young woman in the quiet, unassuming suburbs of Surrey. She was 20, fueled by the exhausting, messy drama of university life, late rent, broken promises, and the desperate, fading belief in her own rebellion. Her armor was ripped denim, oversized shirts, and a defiant sneer at uniform against a world she felt was constantly judging her. But that armor was about to be tested, not by an argument, but by silence. It was a cricket ball thrown in a fit of pique that did it. A loud, splintering crash that ripped through the damp, post-rain air. It wasn't just a neighbor's window. It was a relic, a sacred piece of history, an Edwardian greenhouse, tended to with almost religious devotion by an elderly woman. What followed was a confrontation you won't believe. No shouting, no lawyers, no social media outrage. Just a quiet command delivered by a woman whose authority was measured not in decibels, but in dignity. She had a simple, old-fashioned solution for modern carelessness. An act of discipline that took away the young woman's age, her rebellion, and her modern sensibilities, reducing her to the simplest state of accountability. This isn't just a story about a broken window. It's about the surprising, sharp weight of consequence, and how a moment of deep humiliation can lead to a lifetime of quiet repair. Asterisk, the rain had stopped, but the air in the Surrey suburbs still clung damp and heavy. It was the kind of late October chill that seeped through denim and settled in the bones. Maple leaves, slick and amber, carpeted the pavements of Willow Grove. The street was full of semi-detached homes with bay windows, neatly trimmed private hedges, and the occasional electric car charging in a driveway. Next to number 14, a young woman stood in her back garden. A phone was pressed to her ear as she paced in tight, agitated circles. She was 20, with dyed chestnut hair pulled into a messy bun, silver hoops glinting in her ears. Her outfit spoke of urban rebellion: black ripped jeans, scuffed black Doc Martens, and an oversized, faded black band t-shirt with peeling white lettering that read, "Not your problem." A silver chain hung loosely around her neck. Inside the house behind her, the muffled sound of a kettle whistled. Her mother was likely preparing tea, unaware of the storm brewing outside, but the real storm was internal. The call had been with her university flatmate. It was another argument about unpaid rent, missed deadlines, and broken promises. Frustration coiled in her chest like a spring dot. Her eyes darted to the old cricket ball resting near the garden shed. It was a leftover from childhood summers when her father still lived at home. Without thinking, she snatched it up and hurled it toward the back fence with a sharp cry of exasperation. Crash! It was not the dull thud of wood or brick, but the high, splintering shriek of breaking glass. She froze, beyond the fence. In the immaculate garden of number 12 stood the neighbor's greenhouse. It was a relic of Edwardian charm, its iron frame painted forest green, glass panels fogged with condensation. One pane right at the center now gaped like a missing tooth. Shards glittered on the stone path below. Her stomach dropped. That greenhouse wasn't just glass and metal. It was sacred. She had seen the elderly neighbor tending to it every morning, watering orchids with a tiny brass can, pruning with surgical precision. And now, because of her temper, it was ruined. Before she could retreat inside, the back door of number 12 opened. The neighbor's grandmother stepped out. She was tall for her age, with silver hair pinned in a neat, shiny knot. She wore a knee-length tweed skirt, a cream cable-knit cardigan buttoned to the throat, and polished brown brogues. A string of pearls rested at her collarbone. Her face was lined but sharp. Her eyes were like flint behind wire-rimmed spectacles. She didn't shout. She didn't even look angry. But her silence was worse. "You'll come over," she said. Her voice was low and steady, like a judge delivering a verdict. The young woman hesitated. I didn't mean to. I'll pay for it. I'll come now." Heart pounding, she unlatched the side gate and stepped into the neighbor's garden. The air smelled of wet earth and lavender. Every plant was in its place. Even the bird feeders hung at precise intervals. Inside the sunroom, a glass-walled extension filled with wicker furniture and framed photographs of black and white weddings. The grandmother turned to face her. "That greenhouse was built by my husband in 1963. Every orchid in there was grown from a cutting he brought back from Kew." "I'll pay for it," the young woman blurted. "I'll get it fixed." "Money doesn't restore carelessness," the grandmother interrupted. She walked to a side table and picked up a wooden hairbrush. It was dark walnut, worn smooth from decades of use. "In my day, when you broke something precious, you felt the weight of it. Not just in your wallet, but in your bones." The young woman's breath hitched. "You can't be serious." "I'm 20 and I'm 78, the grandmother replied evenly. "But respect doesn't retire with age." She gestured to a high-backed armchair upholstered in faded floral chintz. "Bend over." The young woman stood rooted. Disbelief warred with shame. This wasn't how things worked anymore. Not in 2025. Not in Britain. Not for someone her age. But something in the grandmother's gaze, unyielding yet not cruel, made her move. Slowly, she stepped forward and bent over the arm of the chair. Her band tie shirt rode up slightly. Her ripped jeans offered no dignity. She gripped the velvet cushion beneath her, knuckles white. The first stroke landed with a sharp thwack. It was not brutal, but firm, deliberate. She gasped, more from shock than pain. "Each stroke," the grandmother said calmly, "is for a life you didn't consider. For the years of tending. For the memory you shattered." Thwack. She bit her lip. Tears pricked her eyes, not from the sting, but from the humiliation of being reduced to this. A child again, accountable in the oldest way possible. THWACK. Her modern clothes felt absurd now. Her rebellion, her slogans, her careless anger, all meaningless against the quiet authority of this woman who remembered a Britain where actions had immediate physical consequences. THWACK. She didn't cry out, but her shoulders trembled. When it was over, the grandmother set the brush down without a word. She walked to a cupboard and returned with a dustpan and a stiff bristled hand brush. "Now," she said, "you'll help me clean what you broke." Still flushed, the young woman followed her outside. The greenhouse loomed, its broken pane like an open wound. Inside, shards of glass glittered among overturned terracotta pots and trampled soil. A rare Phalaenopsis orchid lay uprooted, its delicate white petals bruised. Kneeling on the cold stone floor, the young woman began sweeping carefully. Her movements were slow and reverent. The grandmother worked beside her, gently lifting the orchid, brushing soil from its roots with feather-like fingers. "You think discipline is about pain," the grandmother said after a long silence. "It's not. It's about making you see." The young woman looked up. "I didn't think. I didn't realize it meant so much." "It means everything," the grandmother replied softly, "because it's all I have left of him." Something cracked inside the young woman. Not glass, but pride. She nodded, eyes wet. "I'll fix it properly. Not just the glass. The plants, too." The grandmother studied her for a long moment. Then, almost imperceptibly, she nodded back. 3 days later, the young woman returned. Not in her usual ripped jeans, but in dark trousers and a plain navy jumper. Her hair was tied back neatly. In her arms, she carried 2 replacement glass panels custom cut to match the greenhouse's original design. Slung over her shoulder was a canvas bag with gardening gloves, pruning shears, and a small bag of orchid bark mixed up, the grandmother watched from the kitchen window as she carefully removed the broken frame, fitted the new glass, and sealed the edges with silicone. She worked slowly, methodically. No music, no phone. Just focused out. By afternoon, the greenhouse was whole again. Sunlight streamed through the clean panes, catching droplets on the leaves of rescued orchids. The young woman knelt beside the grandmother, learning how to mist the roots, how to spot rot, how to rotate the pots for even light. No apologies were spoken. None were needed. As dust settled over Willow Grove. The two sat on the garden bench with mugs of Earl Grey. Steam curled into the cool air. The young woman's Doc Martens were scuffed with soil now. Not rebellion. Inside the greenhouse, the orchids stood tall, fragile, yes, but resilient. Like the understanding that had grown between them. Not of equals, but of two generations finding common ground in a world that often forgot the value of consequence, care, and quiet repair. And in that moment, modern Britain felt a little less fractured. Stitched back together, one pane of glass, one honest stroke, one shared silence at a time. Before we go, tell me, what do you think is a more lasting lesson for carelessness? A financial fine? Or a direct, memorable consequence like the one in this story? Has an elderly person ever taught you a hard lesson that you only truly appreciated years later? Share your story in the comments. Do you believe that modern society has lost a sense of accountability, or have the methods of teaching responsibility simply changed?